All right, friends, we are going to look at absolute value equations and the fabulous story of the twins. Let's go. First thing we want to start with is just basic what's absolute value. Most kids at your age do know that absolute value is how far something is from zero. So they think about it on a number line. And it all goes back to zero. So for example, if I give you the number 2 and I say, what's the absolute value of 2? You know it's 2 away from 0. And it works the same way with negatives, right? If I give you -5, how far is that from 0? Or what's the absolute value of -5? You know that it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 away. So the absolute value, again, is just the distance away. So the big question then becomes, when you're solving an absolute value equation, how do you solve for this x? So the best way that I can describe it is to say, if I were to get rid of that x, and I would say to you, what would have to go in there? What would have to go in right here in order for me to get 6? And hopefully you're thinking, oh, I know, I could put in 6 where that yellow splotch is, right? So the absolute value of 6 is 6, but there's also the twin, the other side, and that is the absolute value of -6 equals 6. I'm going to show you how we do it algebraically, and we don't put a splosh on there. I can barely get rid of this thing. Okay, we do a little split move. So whenever we get the absolute value sign alone, we will split it, and we'll say x equals 6, and x will equal -6. Both are solutions. Some people write it as 1 plus or minus 6. But just so you know, there are 2 solutions there. Obviously, we're going to get a little more complicated, but let's just take on some of the simple ones to start. And my screen is like crooked for some reason. Okay, here we go. So absolute value of x equals 19. What are my 2 solutions? Hopefully by now you understand. Those are my 2 little twins over there. X is equal to 19, and x is also equal to -19. And again, why? Because if I were to put -19 here in the middle, it would equal 19. So that middle piece could be 19 or -19. Okay, this is where it gets a little bit fun. Is there anything that I could put here so that I could get -8? The absolute value of what gives -8? The answer, nothing. The absolute value of nothing is -8. You will not get a negative answer, right? If I put 8 in for x, I still get 8. If I put -8, I still get 8. So this one is no solution. All right, let's continue on this path. This is where it starts to get a little more fun, and that is, oops, bouncing down, that is when we have actual equations like this. So first thing you want to do is, again, just put your fence up so you know which side is which. But what you're going to do is you're going to get the absolute value x alone. You're going to do that by ridding yourself of this -5. So you're going to add 5 to both sides. You should end up with the absolute value of x equals -4 plus 5 is 1. And you are almost there, and now you just go for that split. X is equal to 1, and x is equal to -1. 2 solutions. Some people put it like this. Some people do x equals plus or minus 1. All are correct solutions. All right, let's get a little more crazy. Oh, before that, I want you to write this down. Get the absolute value sign isolated before you split positive and negative. Someone famous wrote that. I don't know who, but somebody really famous wrote that. Okay, so always get it isolated and then split positive, negative. All right, tiny little edit to see if we can make this work better this time. I am going to solve for x. I am trying to get this chunk alone, which means my first step should be, that's right, to get rid of this chunk. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides to start. What I will end up with is negative. Absolute value, 2x plus 5, is equal to 15. Oh, not 15. That is a -23 and a -8, which will give me -31. I then have to get rid of this negative sign here. I don't know if you see this here, but it's floating out front. I got to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of it by multiplying by -1. That then gives me the absolute value of 2x plus 5 is equal to positive 31. I can then split it and get 2x plus 5 equals 31, and 2x plus 5 equals negative 31. Do a little more math here. That means I'll subtract 5 on this side. I get 2x equals 26. Divide by 2 and get x equals 13. Gosh, did I do that right? It just seems wrong for some reason, but okay. And then on the other side where I have negative 31, I'm going to subtract 5. That's going to give me 2x equals negative 36. I'll divide by 2. Jeez. X equals negative 18. So my two solutions to this one are 13 and negative 18. Okay, now it's your turn. Pick a level you're comfortable with, mild, medium, or spicy. Solve it and submit your answer.